license for CM, do you put it on the system manager if you're managing the CM there, or do you put it on that WebLM server?
Oh, right.
It's the thing is that the system has an embedded WebLM server.
But where do you put it? I mean, do you put it on the WebLM server, or do you put it on the system manager embedded WebLM?
You have the option to decide. This is the thing. Session Manager, listen to this, Session Manager doesn't allow you to specify the IP address of a WebLM, because the WebLM that uses is the one in System Manager. Because Session Manager is managed by System Manager. So you're forced to have the license of Session Manager in your System Manager. And therefore, if you want to have all of your licenses in one place, you end up installing all of your licenses.
Don't put them in both places.
No.
Okay.
No. You see, so it's a good practice. You don't have to, but it's a good practice to have all of your licenses in the WebLM, in the embedded WebLM in System Manager.
But if you didn't put your CM license in your WebLM, you couldn't manage it, right?
Yeah. And a lot of customers have multiple WebLMs. But then the problem is later is when you're trying to locate your licenses, they're all spread across the WebLMs.
They have multiple WebLMs because Avaya, as they rolled out the product, came up with different ideas for the WebLM.
And back in the day, I mean, even System Platform has an embedded WebLM as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes you end up using that one. You could also install a virtual machine just for the WebLM. So there is an OVA for the WebLM. I even think that Avaya has an appliance that you don't even have to install on top of a hypervisor, and it's also a WebLM appliance that runs on top of Linux. So a lot of stuff that you could use to install a WebLM, and yeah, you could have multiple WebLMs. Again, you end up using the one in System Manager if you want to have all of your licenses in one place, because the license for Session Manager is going to be in System Manager. That's pretty much why.
Is that the same with the other components that we might manage, the other elements? So in conferencing.
No, with the other applications, you do have the option to specify the IP address of a WebLM, so you could use any WebLM. But for Session Manager in particular,
I understand your session.
for presence server as well, you need to do it in System Manager. Remember the first day I mentioned that presence and Session Manager, where those two Avaya applications are forced to be managed and configured from System Manager. So for those two applications, the license is going to be in System Manager.
But all the other elements, we can also use the
different
WebLM and System Manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lab that we're not going to be able to do because they sent me these labs in release 7, and you have a folder in your laptop, in the desktop, called licenses. But that folder with licenses is a folder for the other labs that we were using in release 6.3. So it's the MAC address of those licenses are not going to match with the ones that we're using right now. So actually give it a try. Try to install one of those licenses. Locate your folder.
Oh, okay.
Locate the folder. You find it? And go in your lab 1, right? So try to install one of the licenses for lab 1 or lab 2, and you'll get to see the error.
Yeah, but I just open up the XLM and change the license.
That would be nice, but you know, and I've tried that, of course. But there is a digital signature, you know, on the bottom that doesn't allow you to change a single tiny character in that license.
Just look at any of the XMLs?
Oh, we have to, now we have to do it through the
Oh, this is the
browser.
okay. This thing keeps putting me back to the main menu. Well, I can't go in because somebody else is in. Well, somebody else is in the
Yes, just try it again later.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
I can't do it because somebody else is logged in.
Oh, Nestor is.
Okay, now that maybe it's a good time for you to remember.
Yeah.
I don't want you to kick me out, but remember that if someone else is, for example, in WebLM and you need to go there, you can always go to administrators, active sessions, and you could terminate my session there. and you could potentially do that. Let me just log out nicely.
No, we want to kick it.
or kick me out.
Well, actually,
I'm
not
logged
logged
in as
yeah.
admin, and it's this one here is the one that's been logged in for 18 hours.
Booted.
You should be gone.
And I'm gone. You see?
Your session is no longer active.
Goodbye.
If I had a coworker, I'd do that all day long.
This is useful also later when if you start administering CM from System Manager, and sometimes someone just logs a table in CM and leaves. So you could come here and terminate that person's session.
Like a reset login command.
Yeah.
See how we browse out.
So go ahead and try to install the license. I know it's not gonna work, but I want you to tell me the error message that you get.
Install license.
Okay.
Say that again?
We could accept.
And then find a folder in the desktop.
Yeah, because the MAC address of that license doesn't match. But let's not say MAC address anymore. The host ID of that license.
I've had this argument with so many people. That's not a MAC address. If you think it's a MAC address, you don't know what a MAC
Yeah.
address
One that's unique enough.
It doesn't match, right, with the host ID of the WebLM.
PLDS. Nestor, would it be the PLDS?
Is it the text document that's in that folder?
It's
No,
the XML, all of the XML
Oh,
files.
Oh, just each one individually?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to install
So
licenses
So do
individually.
like a yes.
Okay.
Like for
CM.
example, try CM.
Try CM, yeah.
Which lab? Those are
Ah.
lab 50, 60.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter. It's not a MAC.
Actually it says 50, 60,
Yeah.
and yeah, so actually we
Yeah.
have another travel fee that we use. Right now we're using 10, 20, 30, 40, and
Right.
actually the licenses you have are for, yeah.
So that won't work.
So it's not gonna work, and you're getting the expected message.
Mhm.
Now, if you're curious, and you wanna see why is that it's not matching, you can always right click here and open your XML file, maybe with, let's see, Notepad, and you'll see the XML file, and you'll see here
The
the
license
host ID.
Yeah. Or up there too.
You see?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see.
It's
the
not
surprise.
matching.
And it doesn't match the
Right.
one. You could try to change it, but there is a digital signature here,
Which is encrypted.
encrypted. So as soon as you change that
Encryption.
character here in this file,
What encryption did they use? 256? Yeah.
SHA-2.
So-
SHA-256.
right? And that's for you to not be able to change anything in that license,
Right.
because that would allow you to
Have fun
increment
with that one.
amount of endpoints or
Might take
ports
you a
or
Yeah, good tip. Well, he had some
all of
tools.
that stuff.
I have to call Mr. Robot.
Touchdown.
Touchdown. Tom's tool.
Okay, let's go to page 54. Now you may be wondering, okay, so if we don't have any licenses, what are we gonna do? And the answer is we're okay for 30 days.
Then we can restart it. We get 30 more days.
We
Yeah.
could. They're getting away from that in CM, but that's a CM thing. With Session Manager, you can go ahead and restart Session Manager. That's not gonna give you extra 30 days. You know, that was a CM thing that you could eventually do.
I remember when it was 120 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh?
Release
Didn't
10.
know that. That was what, Definity one?
Release 10. They got release 9 and 10 was the yes. 9 was CLANs, 10 was license. License installation to lit. That's what it was.
I do remember in Definity that only one person in Avaya had a password to modify licenses.
I'm not surprised.
So because they were just so easy to modify
Right.
with this super user account, and all you need to do is go to CM and change the entries of that license. But only one person, at least in Avaya Colombia, only one person had that super user account.
Right. Not surprised.
Okay, so bulk data management. We're gonna see how to import and export data in bulk in your system manager. Provisioning manually can take some time. Right now you've been creating users with no communication profile, so maybe it doesn't take that long, but later when the users have a communication profile, it's gonna take you at least 1 minute per user, you know, even if you know what you're doing. So that's a long time to provision a user. So that's why we're gonna see a tool that allows you to provision users automatically in bulk. Importing in bulk allows you to initially provision the system manager, and also you could modify existing users in bulk. So the tool is not only to initially provision the users, but the tool could be used as well to modify existing users.
Will this directly replace Provision and CN?
This no, it doesn't. It doesn't replace provision.
On purpose.
It doesn't.
Because that would be nice, that's a very expensive product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why they don't replace it.
Exactly, you're right. It's just a license,
That's
license
right.
fee they get.
Yeah.
It doesn't completely. Yeah, things that provision is more used to for upgrades. You know, to convert from.
Love that,
from-
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, importing in bulk. What can be imported or exported? Well, all of the stuff that you see here, and actually more than this. Here they're talking about user-related data, but not only users can be imported and exported, but you're gonna see that network routing policies can be imported and exported, and some other stuff, not only users. Let's see. Following are the key features of the bulk import. You can add, modify, or delete user records. Supports a maximum of 250,000 users in bulk export or import in multiple files. So not one file with 250,000 users, but actually it's one file every 5,000 users. So you would have to import using multiple files.
Yeah.
You can configure, skip, replace, merge, or delete a matching record that already exists. You have the option to specify that before you run the import.
That's cool.
You must perform the import task using System or Web Console to bulk import user logs for failed records. So pretty much what that means is that if you're, let's say, importing 100 users and 20 of those failed to be imported for some reason, System generates a file with those 20 users that failed to be imported so that you can fix whatever the problem was. And System also tells you, hey, the problem with these users was this problem. So you try to fix the problem, and then you use that file to re-import those users. That's what the last two bullets is about. So you can download failed records in an XML file format during the bulk import of users, and you can then try to fix or modify that file and try to re-import the failed records.
Yeah.
Let's see, you can choose the continue on error option if you encounter a problem in any record during the import. So you're able to select if you want to continue if you find problems, or if you want to stop with the first problem that you find. You can perform a complete import or a partial import while importing users. So you're gonna see when you import a user, actually let me show it to you.
Oh.
If you go, for example, to user management, manage user, more actions, import users. This is one way to get to that page. More actions, import users. And notice that the very first question that you're going to be asked is, hey, what's the file type? It's an XML file or an Excel file? Before release 6.3, the only option was XML. And the thing is that customers were complaining because there was no tool to generate that XML file. Avaya had provision, and they were easily generating that XML file, but the customers didn't have provision. So in release 6.3, they came up with this Excel file that you could use. What I want to show you here is that when you work with the XML file, you need to specify if this is a complete import or a partial import. Complete for when the users that you're trying to import are not in the database. They're new users. Partial for when the users are already in the database and you want to modify something for those users. I want you to notice that that question or that option needs to be selected only if you work with XML. If I change this to Excel, that disappear. I no longer need to specify if this is complete or partial. The reason why you had to do it with XML is because the headers of the XML file are different if you're trying to import users that are already in the database or new users. You know, so you need to change those XML headers. However, if you do it with the Excel file, which I think is the option that you're probably going to be using most of the time, you don't have to specify if it's complete or partial. So notice that as the slide states, all you need to do is select your file and then specify the error configuration. If you want to abort on the first error or continue processing all the records, and then you specify what to do if a matching record already exists. So you could skip it, you could merge the two records, or you could delete the existing record. Then you have a way to schedule your import, or you could run it immediately, which is what you're going to be doing. And then, by the way, when you click on import here, the page or the scroll bar is going to go all the way to the top, which is a little bit confusing. You're like, okay, what's going on? If you scroll down, you'll see that there is a job running. And remember, it will run forever unless you refresh that section of the page.
Right.
Okay? We go back to the presentation. So this is what I was talking about. So everything in System Manager is represented as an XML file. That's why back in the day, the only way to import users was by creating an XML file, because everything in System Manager is an XML file. As a matter of fact, if you back up System Manager, it's going to create a compressed file. But if you uncompress that file, you're going to see that eventually it's just a bunch of XML files. Avaya was able to create that file by using Avaya provision. But the customers were just struggling creating that file. And that's why now we have an Excel option. Also notice that there is a note here saying, hey, remember that you could also provision the System Manager by running a synchronization with an LDAP server. So don't forget about that. We go to full screen here. Some performance information. So the bulk import supports 60 records per minute. If you wanna have a lot of users imported, just remember that you have to use files of 5,000 users per file.
Or less.
Or less, yeah,
Right.
or less. It says here that 100,000 users maximum in one import is spread across multiple files, but in release 7 that changed to 250,000 users. Still spread across multiple files.
So in release 7, it's still 5,000 max.
Yeah,
But you can
per
go up to
file, but
250.
you can now go to 250,000 users. Importing failed records. So as I was saying, when something fails, when a user fails to import, then System Manager generates a file. It's not here, but generates a file that you can use to.
Shows all the failures.
Yeah, the only thing with that file is that it's an XML file. It's no longer an Excel file.
Oh.
So you would need to fix that XML file and re-import the XML file, no longer an Excel file.
I got you.
Yeah,
You
that's
can
the
open
only.
XML, Excel, I think you can convert it or something.
And in that case, it'd be a partial.
In that case, if the user was not in the database, it would be complete. Right? Assuming that the user was a new user, it would be complete. Yeah.
Right.
Very visualized.
So it's a file that just shows the failures that didn't get updated.
Say that again?
It's a file that shows the failures. In other words, those that did not get updated.
That
Just
either
like-
not updated or not created in
Not
the
created.
system.
And basically, you go to that file. But the thing
Yeah.
is, I think if you can only work in Excel, I think in Excel you can open, and I'm not sure if you can open an XML or not. You could probably open it as
I
an
don't think so. You have to import it as a CSV
as
file.
a CSV. Yeah. Right.
Let's see. System supports both full and partial user data importing, and as I show you, it's only when you're trying to use an XML file, not
Mhm.
the Excel file.
Okay.
Importing data, you can go pretty much to the page that I show you, where you import users in two ways. Let me show you the two ways to get to the same page. One of them is by going to manage users, right? And more actions, and you'll go to import users. That's one way to get to that place. Another way to get to the same place is by going to bulk import and export under services. So bulk import and export. Go to import, user management, users, and then you get to the same page. Two ways to get to the same place. And this is what I just showed you, all of the options in that page. That's in page 66. And remember, you could run the job immediately or schedule it. And when you run it, notice that in this case says that it failed.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always select your job, click on view job, and then you get to see details on the job, and it tells you, hey, some users, for example, failed to be imported because of a specific reason. Here in the slide saying that this login name, the login name of the user was Jumbo percentage, and probably the percentage sign is a symbol that is not allowed.
Mm.
So it'll give you the problem that you have, so that you can try to fix that later. And you can always click on download, and it's going to download a file with all of those users that were not imported because of some problems. There is no rollback after a successful import, and each record is handled individually. That means that if you're importing 100 users and user 50 failed to be imported, even if you stop the process, or even if you continue, those 49 users that were imported. There's no way to roll back. Now, how you get the Excel file? You get it going to user management, more actions, and at the bottom, you're gonna see a way to download the Excel template. Oh, and I just found a problem. We're gonna have to do this lab in a different way, because I'll show you in a minute why we'll have to do the lab in a different way. But you get the Excel template from here. It's gonna look like this, and notice that there is some important things to be considered. And you see them in this slide, page 72. It says, do not change any details of any headers in the worksheets. Well, that one is kind of expected, right? Do not change the column position or change the structure of the Excel template. And the one that is kind of interesting says, do not sort the data in the worksheets, which is something that I tend to do right away.
Yeah.
I've done it, by the way, and sometimes it works, it's not a problem, but the manual says do not sort the data in the worksheets.
Are they afraid that you might be including the headers and it sorts the header?
The thing is that,
Yeah.
you're able to sort, but notice that the file has 10
Oh, blank lines.
rows
Yeah.
that you need to leave there, like don't go and remove. I don't know what's the reason behind those 10 rows, those empty 10 rows at the beginning, and just leave them there, don't remove them. And if you're gonna sort,
Start from the first row of
exactly,
Right.
so that later you don't have that's probably what they
Yeah.
mean by saying do not sort.
data. Probably.
Yeah, because I have sorted information and it still works.
Yeah.
But just be careful and start with pretty much don't do anything to those 10 rows and things are gonna work. Here, how to import, where you just select the file. Let me see. this is, let me just go to the exercise. So this is the thing. In your PC, there is a file. Go to the desktop in your PC, and there is a file called, I think the name of the file is import file.
I see
Did
it.
you find it?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the lab, all you need to do is import that file. But go ahead, actually, and do it. But I think it's gonna fail. Let's give it a try. Try to import that file, and let me know if you were able to import those 10 users or not. Failed?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Excel doesn't look complete.
So let me tell you something. That Excel file was generated from a System Manager 6.3, and now we're using 7.
So the formatting is a little different.
Yeah. So if you wanna make it work, what you need to do is
Open
download. Listen to this. Download the Excel template from this menu. Remember the one I show you here. Go to More Actions. Download the Excel template, and in that template, paste the information that you have in this file. See what I'm saying? I mean, download an empty template, and probably you have to open it with Libre, by the way.
It says you can open it with Excel.
You could, but I'm not sure what version
what
of
version?
Excel you have, or if it's licensed, or I do know that all of the laptops have Libre, so maybe right-click on the file and open it with Libre. But what I want you to do is that empty Excel template that you're gonna generate, just copy the information in the import file to that template, and then you're gonna be able to import those 10 users. Now, if you're working, like in this case, that the two of you are working in the same lab,
Yeah.
the first one who runs the import is going to be the one successful, and then the other one is going to get warning saying that those users are already in,
Maybe I'll just change a couple of my records.
or maybe you can just go ahead and
Yeah.
change some records. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh. This is a trial of Office, that's why it won't work. Let me close that out. Yeah, I could try.
I can't even copy off of
Yeah, because
Wow.
you're in a try mode.
Yeah. So
It's not
right,
gonna work in Excel.
open the import file with Libre, not with Excel.
With Libre,
Yeah.
let's see. So it says open with. I do click on other. Libre, here it is.
This is
Okay.
Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre. Let's see.
Copy. Paste.
Excel file. File. Oh, because you can't even copy it from Excel because you can't even.
No, you gotta open Nacho.
You gotta open the nacho.
With Nacho.
Yeah. Nacho cheese.
Nacho. Let's see.
Let's see.
Now we're getting somewhere. And I have to rename the file import files? Or can I just?
Any name.
Ask, this document may contain formatting. Use the default ODF. Use Microsoft Excel. XML format. Use ODF format.
Go with the Microsoft Excel.
XML format.
Yeah, I think that's the one that you should use.
Confirm
Just
file.
make sure that later when you save it, you save that as a XLSX file. So go with, use Microsoft Excel. And then,
So it's saved. So now it's saved.
let me see the extension of your file.
This one.
That one,
Oh, it's my new file.
así que okay, XLSX. Yeah, go ahead and try to import that.
Excel, right?
Excel. Is it thinking? Yes.
How you do when you do the
So scroll down, and now you're gonna see it running. Refresh.
That's an execution.
90%. All successful. So it says 10 user records were imported. So yeah, I'm done. And now you should see those 10 users. Now you have to paste.
Yeah.
And notice that you can change. You see how you're displaying only 15?
There we go.
You can go ahead and display all of them.
There we are. So if I go back to my file, I should see those guys.
Because and you have the your Excel in French.
Loads. So a guy like Eduardo Nick, let's see if he's there. Eduardo Nick, yeah. Nice.
Let's see if it works for me. Oh, come on. So I opened that file up in Libre,
Yeah.
and it didn't work when I just did a save because it puts it as a .ods.
Oh,
But if I do
you
a
gotta
save
choose-
as,
Choose Microsoft Excel XML format.
oh XL, oh, okay, because I
When
did the
you save it, when you
XLSX.
do the save as.
That's why. All right, hang on.
Yeah, don't choose the ODS.
Well,
That's what I did.
actually, I tried the XLSX, which is no good. So it's got to be the XML. So here we go.
How's it going here?
That was
Pretty good. I just saved
okay,
it
good.
as
Then I come back
XML
here.
because I had saved it as
New
this
data.
one and it didn't work.
I don't know why I didn't like it.
Okay.
But then I can't find it. I named it the same.
XML. No, that's
So let's see.
details.
So that's the file, right?
Yeah.
So just go to file. Let's create another one. Save as.
No, what, nothing?
It's called.
No, that's an XML.
Excuse
Hang on a
no.
second.
Something you remember.
Oh, it couldn't be written.
And save it on your desktop.
I wasn't able to save it as an XLM because it could not be written. Why not?
Go ahead
Those are
and
your
you want to
users, the
save
ones you
it.
wanna-
Yeah.
So
So
I
do
think you use
save as.
No, actually, it has
And
an
then
Excel
change it
file.
to XML, you said?
No.
Make some Excel.
Or just XLS?
You chose
So
save
the
as.
file has to be an
Save as.
XLSX.
I didn't have to do anything in the save as.
If I don't do save as and I just go, it automatically goes as an ODS, which doesn't accept, obviously.
But when I didn't touch that,
Close.
and then it gave me the option.
Right, but what I, okay, so let me show you. If I do save as, that's
I
what,
changed, did you change the name?
no, it changes to something else, but it's still, it's the save, it's the type that's giving me the issue, not the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you hit save.
And it's gonna save it as an XLSX, it's not gonna accept it.
that-
Let me
that's-
ask you one
hit save.
question. The
Okay.
file,
Oh, see, right there, when
Is
I
this
did, are
file
you in Excel right
the
now? or
one-
No,
are you
I'm in,
Libre?
I'm in Libre.
did you,
Okay.
well,
I'm in Libre.
Copied it.
But I just saved it as an XLSX, and if I go over here,
and you copy the
and I try to
information from
import,
here, and
Let me go back to
you copy it
desktop.
Yeah, on the template.
to the template.
You called it Alex, right?
Yeah, Alex Twins.
That's it.
Oh. Yeah, right here.
We open
If I do this,
app,
right, there it is.
okay,
If I do import,
Right.
select it, all this stuff.
I get this, not supported for bulk import.
All I did
Yeah.
Download the template.
Yeah, did you download the new template?
I did.
And copy and paste information over and it worked just fine.
Yeah.
Really? All right, let me do that again. Because maybe I think I closed it.
Alright, so go to
Go to user. Go to
Anything on there you're not on your desktop.
So they didn't go in.
Empty
the-
templates.
manage users.
So.
More actions. Yeah,
I don't
download
know
template
what this
right here.
is. So let's look at the other.
I believe you, I just don't know why.
Why it's doing that?
Yeah.
Comment
That's what
in the
that's
wrong
what I did
place.
do. But
So
then
that's login.
okay, there's nobody
It's
here.
trying to work.
Hit no.
Hit now. Okay.
No.
Put in.
8 minutes ago.
Or copy them from your
No.
from your other lead.
Nah, I just type it in.
That's actually the one.
David.
There's nothing in that Latin translation.
Yeah.
field, right?
Oh, really?
It's supposed to be accepted.
Okay.
So just first name and last name, and then email.
And then email, which is
Under login.
login name. So
Username. I know this is what you use this. Save as. Save it as.
it's all made up anyway.
Last names.
Maybe I'm missing. It's gonna be
I
file
see what
save
happened.
as
I was in the wrong space. I would in
Twinkies.
so let's just. do
Leave that
this.
the way it is. XLSX.
So you modified it, you did save as.
Mhm.
And you did there
No,
you
just
go.
to make sure
Now,
that-
Yeah, that's what I did. I don't know.
Okay.
That's
Might
weird.
be
But all right, let me
because
try it
of-
again.
now what'd you say? What's the name?
Twinkie.
Maybe it's misleading, and maybe the problem is that the file was open somewhere else.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it could be, I'm
It
just
could
trying
be.
to,
Yeah.
you never know. Although
Unless
the,
it-
although
unless
the
it
message is
missteps
clear,
something.
you know, the extension
Yep.
is
Yeah.
not supported.
I say you do something I didn't do. I
Oh,
mean, this
okay.
was so
The
straightforward.
conversation ended, timed out, so hit done.
Yeah, tell you
Get out of
shut
there.
up.
Ah,
Close
you
that
didn't
out.
change
I-
it?
I didn't change it.
Ah, okay, so we need the
go
whole
back.
of it. You
That's
probably,
it.
so we should probably
To,
try Jesse,
Yeah.
the one that
Go
you
to home.
created.
Go to home.
Yeah, that's what happened. I didn't
Go there, that's for some silly reason.
Maybe running out the
God,
bottom.
you had everything
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's possible. Let's see.
So now it's importing,
Scroll
it's
down.
pending execution, but it's gonna be like this forever unless you refresh.
Probably did it the first time.
It's
Maybe.
running,
I
it's
just- I
sending
never had
samples.
So now if I look at
Remember that.
let's go back to users.
Now it's running complete, and now you see that
Yeah, go
10
back to
users
users.
were imported. So you
User
get to see them here.
and they're there.
Eh,
Who'd
no.
you add?
How do you go here?
David.
Oh,
Once we
show
put the
all.
columns in the right
Oh,
place.
because it's on the second page.
They went fine, but, you know, putting them in the wrong place, it totally told
I
us that
added
was
my
not gonna
my
happen.
daughter and my son.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a fat finger, basically.
Yeah.
Oops.
Did your initial one go through?
Yeah, so,
No, none of them.
you know, it's interesting that if you use the import file that they give you since it was generated in 6.3, system 6.3, even though it's still an XLSX file, there's something with the format tiny different. You
Hmm.
compare with the one now in
All I
7.
did was just copies of the rows and columns that were in the old one, put it that way, and it worked right.
And it
It's
worked
still
right.
giving me an issue, and that's Twinkies. And I did.
Okay,
Oh, you
cool.
chose XML, hit Excel.
Oh, maybe.
So this is how you import
was.
users in System Manager. Let's have a break.
Well, hit browse.
We've been here for an hour and a half.
Choose Twinkies,
No break.
scroll down,
I gotta change it to Excel though. That's why.
yeah, and then browse.
No, I got it already.
Where is it?
Oh, because it changed.
Yeah, hit browse. There it is. See, now it's there.
Yeah, I had to change it first to Excel. I bet you that's what it is.
No.
Let's see.
Now it's working. See it working up top?
Back in 15?
Back in 15, yep.
Cool.
Now hit status. See that? Schedule. Now scroll down. Refresh.
Cool.
There it is.
Let's go to
Now
users.
did you hit done?
No.
Go ahead and hit done. Down at the bottom. Hit, go back to bulk. Your bulk tab. The second one.
Oh, because it takes you straight. Yeah, there they are.
You got 'em?
Yeah, you know what the missing step was? By default, it goes to XML. So you have to
Yes.
change it to Excel
Yeah.
before you do the input on the XLSX. Otherwise, it's a mismatch. All right, practice makes perfect. But that's cool.
We're on a break?
Yeah. So probably 15
I was
minutes.
gonna ask you to help me troubleshoot something, but I figured it out midstream. Remember you said yesterday use Firefox as
Mhm.
preferred method? Initially
I've
when,
been using Firefox.
well, when I came in here, this was on IE. I didn't realize it wasn't Firefox. Then every 7 or 10 seconds, it will blow me back out to the main menu. And at one
Yeah.
point, it actually logged me out. I'm like, what the heck
The
happened?
problem is the version of that
IE? It's not licensed properly?
It's no, it's just the version.
It's
if
all-
you upgrade to I think it's
IE
release
11.
11 or 12, then it's gonna work.
Might be on 99.
Because
Oh, System Manager?
because Internet
Yeah.
Explorer. No. If you talk
Let
about
me
the
s-
router, the Internet
That'll
Explorer.
be important for us to know since we use
Accessing
IE.
system manager.
What version
Yeah,
are
Internet
you
Explorer.
using right now in that lab?
I had the
I
same
think
thing.
it's 9
They
or
told me
8.
I've been
it's either
using Mozilla.
Firefox or.
But I
No,
know if
I'm-
you go to latest
I'm
version.
not a fan of Mozilla. I've never used it.
This is
but I'm
11.
gonna start using it now
I
for
really like
system manager.
Mozilla.
Yeah, or Chrome.
Yeah. One thing with Chrome is
Dong, don't use this version.
with Chrome you